Well, this is my first attempt at narrating a video, so here we go. First time I bought a Bandai kit. This is the 14880 ST from Star Wars. I wanted to build something a little bit different. What impressed me most was the mouldings, the quality of the mouldings. Good instructions, nice and clear. It's designed to be clicked together, but I actually used some extra thin adhesive. I was very pleased how it all went together. Very little flash to clear off. I wanted to change the look of the vehicle to give it more of a World War II vibe, so I cut some panels or some panel lines in the front and then the side panels, as you'll see, and used some 0.3mm styrene sprue or styrene rod to cut off and make small bolts. Inside there were some features to sit the drivers that are supplied, but I cut those off and give it a more weathered look. So that's the inside coming together. Again, came together very easily. Just getting ready to put some paint. That's my layout at the moment. My setup was actually on holiday here, so everything pretty much went into the two big boxes. Painted the inside, wanted to give it a sort of grimy, used appearance, so lots of Vallejo acrylics and then weathering. Here's the side panels, so cut some lines with the knife, and then there's the 0.3mm, so stuck those on just with extra thin, and then file them down and then just buff them over with sandpaper just to get a more rounded look. As you can see, I also changed the front laser. I cut that off and added a 7.5mm cannon to scale, and then also drilled out the other lasers to make them into what could be machine guns, flamethrowers. Some views of the interior now. You can see it's finished and weathered, and the top assembly or the head assembly sort of coming together. So it's pretty much together now. Quite pleased with how it all went. Primer, and you can see I've just roughly put together the figures. These are Tamiya German maintenance crew figures. Just starting to think about how they're going to be laid out in the diorama that I'm going to build. Then I realised for the guys to get on top they needed a ladder, so from 1mm and 0.3mm I've just made a little ladder that stuck onto the back. It seemed to look okay. Now getting ready to prime the exterior, so put some foam inside and then started to apply a grey primer and then some pre-shading with black. Quite a lot of lines to do, took quite a bit of time, but I think it looks quite effective. Their legs took a little bit longer, obviously lots of nooks and crannies to get into, but again I think it was effective, and there we are, pretty much finished for pre-shading. Then a light coat of desert yellow. I looked at some reference photos and camouflage photos just to decide on what I was going to do to make it look more period. World War 2.5 could be. Again, pretty pleased with how the pre-shading came through. Quite a lot of it's lost in its final finish, but it just gives something. Then I selected a camouflage green and reddish brown. These are Tamiya colours or Tamiya mixes that I airbrushed. Again, pretty pleased with how they came out. Thinking about how the Walker, obviously they're only very good in any good in forests or wooded areas. Out in the open they just get shot to pieces. You can see I've applied the decal there, so I sprayed with satin varnish and then applied the decals. Starting to weather now with some oils, just some cheap black and brown oils into the the panel lines, crevices, just to sort of give some dirt and age look. So on the left is before, on the right is after. That's just the first round of weathering. Again, quite pleased with how it came out. You can see again starting to think about how it's going to go together. So here's the base. It's made from expanded foam. I think it's 25, no, maybe 30 millimeters. Just scored some lines in with the back edge of a knife and cut out doors. So we've got concrete blocks. Made the doors and the staging platform from styrene. Some sheet tubes, railings from 1mm and 0.3mm styrene rod. Picked away at the corners of the concrete blocks just to give it an aged look. So that's just with a pair of thin-nosed tweezers. Again, thinking about how the scene's going to work. More elements from styrene sheet, I think 1.5mm thick, just to give more character as to how the wall may be built, so sitting on concrete slabs. Decided to paint the base in black acrylic as an undercoat. I should have put some PVA glue in because a bit later on some masking pulled it off, so it didn't stick too well. So that's something for me to remember for the future, just to give it a good base ready for airbrush. And then Tamiya black mixed with a bit of buff, just as a primer layer really, and then start to airbrush in lighter shades, primarily grey with a little bit lighter, so starting off dark and then gradual lighter grey. Same too with the concrete blocks. Just use a piece of plastic with a right angle cut, and then I put a yellow line. The idea being that that's how they centralise the walker to the loading bay or loading platform. There's the doors, again bolts cut from 0.3mm rod, and a window. Again, thinking about how the composition is going to work. Then oils, as before, brown and black oils, just to give a bit of weathering. That's to the walls and then to the base. Starting to put the styrene sheet around the sides, building up what will be a mud wall. So that's Dax air dry clay, which is very good. This time I put the border styrene on first, and then so I could smooth the clay. And here's supposed to be like a hinging A ladder for the loader to get into the vehicle. Thinking about again how the composition is going to work. So we've got workbench, ladder, loader, shells. Did another round of weathering, so some pigments and oils, just to try and give it more of a dirty weathered look. I wanted to add some lights. First time I'd had a go at this, so I bought some cheap small 3V LEDs, made some little light units from styrene and straw, actually, clear straw, and so I've got two lights, one either side of the door and then in the window and also the lower door. Now getting the figures and accessories ready for painting, so they're put down and finished, primed. Dark colours sprayed from underneath, lighter colours sprayed from on top, and then various flesh tones. Pretty pleased with how they came out. Most of the inspiration from Night Shift actually. And then a final finishing coat of matte varnish on the walker, and a very light coat of buff just to give it a bit more weather. And then started the edge chipping, so sponge for the dark grey, and then a very fine brush with almost black really Starting to come together now, the scene, most of the figures and the weathering. Pretty pleased with how that's turning out. Figures not my greatest skill, but still practicing, keep forcing myself to do more. So there you can see we painted the mud wall at the side. I think I've glued this guy down, I've decided where he's going to go. Workbench, more weathering to come, but there's a toolbox and a vice, which is quite nice actually, the Tamiya. Quite nice quality for Tamiya, 148. In the background you can see we've got the ammo boxes and more shells, which again from the same German maintenance crew kit. Need to finish that guy on the platform. Then I added some mud to the ground, give the impression that it's come out of a muddy forest before getting to the maintenance area. And from solder wire I made a hose and a tap from different size sprue. Then more accessories, getting ready, primed and painted, and in the ammo boxes. This is all with Vallejo acrylics. Nice bright brass colour, quite pleased with that, because obviously new shells will be clean, they won't be weathered. And then a little bit more weathering to do on the tools on the table, which you'll see in the final photos. And that's it. So now for the final reveal.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope my voice wasn't too nauseating. Really appreciate it if you like and subscribe, and if you want to, share it. There are more videos on my channel. Here's some of the links. And until next time, thank you.